Happy Wednesday, everybody, and thank you all so much for tuning in to another edition of the PHNX Hockey Podcast. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, leave us a 5-star review. I'm Leah. Wow, I forgot my own name for a second.
Petey will join us in a moment.
I'm Leah here with Petey. We said Craig will be here anytime there's news. Well, there's news, so Craig's here. We have Danielle behind the Mac. How's everybody doing on this fine Wednesday?
I'm great. How about you?
Yeah.
This is just
Leah's coming in hot right now, though. That's a lot of enthusiasm.
Listen, we get one live show a week. I'm going to bring it every time.
Guys, we're talking hockey.
Yeah, we're talking.
Are we though? Are we though?
Yeah, we're talking government bodies, zoning, land.
Are you coming with enthusiasm?
But things are good because you know what? And we're going to get to it later, but there's really good hockey on right now. It's really good hockey.
Conference finals are amazing.
Yeah, the conference finals have been great. As advertised, it's been really fun to talk hockey and watch hockey, and then soon it will all be over, and we'll start talking about drafts and rookie camps and all that. But that'll be fun too, but not today.
We will talk playoffs at the end.
Hockey does belong in the desert. I like the shirt, and we're going to talk about some hockey in the desert.
So I'm wearing my Hockey Belongs in the Desert shirt. It came this week. You can get yours now at phnxlocker.com. They are shipping, and the Deactivated Fans and Coyotes Forever shirts are shipping this week. So if you ordered yours and you're wondering where it is, it's shipping this week.
Or both.
Yep, me too. So can't wait to get it, but love this shirt. Also comes in sticker format as well. So make sure you check that out, phnxlocker.com. Well, let's dive into it, and we'll start with the news of the week.
Sorry, I'm not repping PHNX. I'm repping Ireland today, so.
Nothing is, that's not shocking
shortly,
at all.
So
not shocking.
My wife will be leaving me to go to Ireland, so. There was news, though. There was news yesterday. 2 days ahead of a scheduled AHL Board of Governors vote. The Rio Nuevo district, Petey.
Yeah,
you just learned about that.
It's another level of governing body.
I understand.
They own and operate Tucson Arena, Convention Center.
Yep.
They held a meeting with a modified plan for the Roadrunners schedule next season. And it was unanimously approved. I was on the meeting.
Oh, you watched
I did.
Another meeting. Wow.
Yep. I know so many politicians in the state. It's insane. But the plan, of course, that I think everyone knows by now, is that the Roadrunners will play only 6 games at Mullett Arena in Tempe and the remaining 30 in Tucson. They have 2 years remaining on this agreement. The Roadrunners did offer them a 3rd year in exchange for some concessions, financial concessions, which were outlined in a couple of Tucson outlet stories. We'll see how all that plays out. In order for this to be completely approved, the city council still needs to approve it. That's expected to happen. And then whoever those 3 opponents that the Roadrunners play on those 3 separate weekend series, they have to approve the schedule as well. That's also expected to be rubber stamped. If one of those teams for some reason says, hey, that doesn't work for us, I was told by the AHL they'll just slide in another opponent. So this is going to happen. The Roadrunners are staying in Tucson for 30 of their 36 home games. This is probably the best case scenario for the team, for the players, for the franchise, for the fans, for youth hockey down in Tucson. I think it's to all of their benefits.
Yeah, it's interesting because I guess when we sat and listened to the public relations message from the Meruelos when the Coyotes left town, it was kind of assumed maybe that they were going to move the team up there for all of their games. And then that shifted to 14, and now it ended at 6. I do think 6 is the best outcome. And of those 2, it's back-to-backs is what you were told.
Yes.
And so that makes, again, we're talking about financial costs. Then you don't have to keep the team here for 3 days at a time. You just get them up on a Thursday to a Saturday. So I think that helps. Yeah. And I think from a fan base, if you have weekend series, I do think that makes some sense too. So
it's almost a novelty, right?
So I do think there's a lot of winning. I think, again, so I think it's good. I think it's great for Tucson. And one of the concerns we all had here was what happens to Tucson and the rink and the ice. I think this is good because the ice now clearly is going to remain and they're going to be fine. Now they'll have programs and everything will stay pretty much the same. It's just adding 3 weekends of road games. It's not that big a deal to Tucson, really. Yeah. In the whole scheme of things. So I think Tucson ends up being a big winner.
I want to clarify, too, because it's 6 games. It's one beyond what the existing contract. Right. That's why they have to go through city council. They have to amend that agreement is what happens on June 4th is when the city council meets next. And it's expected to happen then. But again, it's just one game beyond what they were probably planning on doing anyway. So
yeah, I think it's interesting. But what's going to be the next step for me? I mean, there's still a lot of things I'm going to want to see. I'm curious to see what happens up at the ice den. Yeah. Because I know that the Arizona Coyotes Hockey Club has a lot of space there and they rent a lot of ice there. They still have a hockey club. They just don't have players. So
or coaches or managers
or any hockey operations.
That's all though.
That's all they lost. I'm just curious to see what happens to that relationship because there is no longer a need for ice or the space or the locker rooms that they thought they might fill with Roadrunners space. Well, now clearly you don't need that. Yeah. So I'm curious to see what happens to that agreement that's still in place. I'm curious to think too what Utah thinks of all this. And I know you reported that Utah had some thoughts and part of the reason that there was some pushback.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, literally last week we sat here and we said, well, this is the proposal, 14 games in Tempe, 22 in Tucson. You wrote a story about it, go PHNX.com.
Yeah, that's what was before the Board of Governors.
Yeah. And we thought, okay, we're on Thursday, there's going to be a vote, we'll talk about it. And then all of a sudden, I felt like yesterday afternoon in the span of an hour, I was like, oh, here it is coming together. But yeah, like you said, you reported that the Utah management wasn't too happy about it. And there were some questions about that in our Discord. Why, again, it goes back to this weird situation that we're in which it's the Utah affiliate, but owned by 2 different owners. But at the end of the day, like you said in Discord yesterday, Craig, is that the development is run by the hockey management of Utah. Mm-hmm. So they didn't like the idea of the developmental impact that having all of those extra games in Tempe would have.
Right. And I know there's some people are like, well, it's just a 90-minute bus ride. What's the big deal? Well, you're pulling them away from all their facilities as well for all those games where they have to stay up here. So they're missing out on development time. They're missing out on guys are on a schedule. Schedules are very important to hockey teams, to coaches in the course of development. So when you're talking about 14 games, I don't know if that was going to be 7 weekends or if they're going to be a couple of weekdays. That's a lot of disruption to the schedule in development. And you may think it's not a big deal, but you're not on the inside. To coaches, to development people, it's a really big deal. And Utah, they pushed back hard on this. They did not like this at all for the development of their players. And that's a big reason why I think we saw what happened yesterday. As soon as word got out, granted it came from us, about them requesting 14 games, Utah pushed back big time. And so we came to this compromise, which really is... It's almost back to the original agreement. And listen, you mentioned it, PD. Let's just say it. Let's be blunt with this. This was another miscalculation by the Morelos. You're out there advertising that you're going to move the team fully to Tempe. Well, you got all these stakeholders. You've got a contract for 2 more years in Tucson. You've got to talk to Arizona State University. You got to talk to Oakview Group, which probably wanted to fill some dates, so they would have been okay with the extra revenue as the arena manager. But then the biggest piece here is you need approval from the AHL Board of Governors. So this wasn't a situation where you could just say to Tucson, yeah, you know what, we'll pay whatever it has to be, or come sue us. We're going to break our contract. We're going up. No, because if you tried to do that, the Board of Governors would have slapped you back down to Tucson, saying we're not going to operate like that. You will not be playing in Tempe.
And I'm going to go back to one of the things you talked about with development, especially with Utah. You're talking about moving a team up here. You're looking at 8 to 10 practice days they would have lost with that many games up here. And 8 to 10 practice days, again, doesn't sound like much. But that's 2 a month, and that's a lot because you don't get a lot of practice time. Plus, how many morning skates they would have missed. But more importantly than that is the time after the morning skates when you can sit on the ice forever because it's your ice time in your rink that they would have really lost out on. So I do believe that's a huge deal. I'm trying to see now from my perspective as a fan perspective what the fan impact is, not just Coyote fans or hockey fans here in the desert. Is a what meaning in the Valley, Phoenix metro area? What does it do to the hockey fans in Tucson that are season ticket holders? Does this now 6 of your tickets are a package in Arizona? and you're in Tempe, and now you're driving back and forth? Or I'm curious to see what the fans' response in both markets are going to be. Are Valley fans going to go, oh, they're here for this weekend, I'm going to support them, and then they're going to go away for a month? I'm curious to see what that
right. What does the
looks
season
like.
ticket package look like? Right? Does it include these games?
Or is there a Mullett pack?
Yeah,
and you buy the 6-game pack.
And does that mean that the season tickets down in Tucson are discounted?
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm curious
these
to
are
see.
all things that I think we should make an effort.
Who
to
can
find
we
out.
ask? No, and I'm not being a little glib.
I will find out
But who
all
do you
that
ask?
stuff. But you know, all the stuff that you mentioned on development, two other pieces that people don't think about. But this is sports science is a big deal.
Yeah.
In professional sports organizations now. Sleep. What does it do to your sleep patterns when you're in a hotel all of a sudden?
Yep.
You're not in your own bed, right? You're not on your own schedule. What does it do to your nutrition? Now we got to figure out what we're doing from a food standpoint, because it's basically another road game, right? So all of that mattered in the final equation here.
Yeah, I know if I was on the staff, and I'm, as I do with everything, I'm selfish and I look at what it does to me. If I was working for that Tucson Roadrunner staff, what would this mean to me? I'd be pissed.
Yep.
Because one thing, when you're at home, you have your facilities. And I know for a video coach, you have your servers, or they have access to more data. You have your stuff there. It's your facility. It's your video room where you can show the meetings. It's your stuff.
Yeah.
And you're going to go into the Mullett and you're a road team again. And now and only 6 games to it's going to be, where's this plug? Where's the outlet? How do I get on the internet? It's just little things like that. They're going to be a pain in the ass for this staff. I'm telling you, there's just the little things that are going to bug them. So I'm glad it's only 6. I am excited personally that I'm sure I will be at several of those games on the weekends, because I'll want to see an opportunity to see some of the players we've talked so much about. So from that perspective, I'm excited. The biggest question I have, though, are they bringing the Minute Donuts up?
These are the hard-hitting. Craig will worry about the ticket stuff. We'll ask about this.
I'll just go.
Why don't we all just speak directly to Bob Hoffman right now? And
bring the donuts.
Suggest that you bring the donuts.
Bring the donuts.
Bring the donuts. John
Chuck a puck, all that.
Yeah. Oh my God.
I will chuck a puck at the Mullett.
AHL games are a blast,
They're
by
fun.
the way. John said Junior will have more places to sell Roadrunners streetwear. We'll see what happens in that department.
Don't laugh.
Charles said, Meruelo Group miscalculating a move? I'm shocked. Laughing asks, could the AHL force him to sell the team?
I mean, I don't think so. It would take
Similar
extraordinary
situation
circumstances
to the NHL.
Yeah, it would take
situation,
extraordinary
right?
circumstances.
Yeah, extraordinary
Like,
circumstances.
What has he done wrong?
But
I mean, this was a miscalculation. This wasn't some gross conduct or something, or not having a place to play.
But though, Craig, it brings up a good point, though, is what does this affiliation, how long is this affiliation under contract for? And what does this look like in the short and long-term future with the Utah Hockey Club? And I think those questions, I think there's a lot of supposition that from the Meruelo Group specifically, that think this relationship's going to continue in infinitum, or at least the near future.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't either. And when you saw Scott Howson in the story that I wrote last week saying that he expects the affiliation to continue, but I don't know. I don't know that this is the ideal situation for the Utah franchise. It's not easy to just buy an AHL franchise or start an AHL franchise, right? It's not necessarily an easy step, and it's more money. And we all see what's going on with Ryan Smith up in Utah, by the way. Is he in fact as wealthy as the NHL was telling you he was? I'm not so sure about that. I'm hearing very interesting things from a private equity standpoint about the challenges that Ryan Smith is facing. But would they like, in an ideal world, would Utah like to own their franchise? I think so.
But okay, Craig, would you own a franchise? And I swear I don't know the answer to this. I know the coaching staff of the Tucson Roadrunners is employed by the Utah Hockey Club.
Yep.
Potvin Slaney, they hope to be signed. I know that they're still working on some things. But the coaching staff in the American League team is hired and operated and paid through Utah. What about the ancillary staff, and specifically the hockey staff, equipment trainers, medical guys? Are they also under?
I don't know, actually. I would assume so, but I don't know.
Yeah,
actually.
I don't know. Where is
not.
that dividing line on the cost?
And you know, the other thing that I don't know, because I've never had to answer this question, is like, what's a player on an AHL only contract? Who's paying that?
Yeah.
Is that Utah or is that?
And then what about the other staff? Like,
I think those questions. I think it's important we dig deeper into that, because
I can ask that.
And it's funny because I've said this on one of our previous shows. This is how these relationships with this franchise worked until they moved to Tucson. When they were in Portland and Springfield and the Alamo, and where were they? San Antonio.
Yeah. The Alamo.
I went to San Antonio. I don't know how more people don't fall in that water. I don't know.
Because there's no guard for
Buddy,
it. It's just right there.
And there's bars literally everywhere.
Yeah,
like
that's fair. I've wondered that.
Just saying.
I do have a question though about this whole situation, because obviously, the Coyotes left, and then within a week, Meruelo's out there publicly saying that they want to move the team to Tempe, but then you're hearing that the AHL was like, well, we haven't been given a proposal. Then they do come with a proposal. We're expecting this to go to a vote this Thursday. This thing happens yesterday. So the thing that happened yesterday, was that kind of a decision that Rio Nuevo just made on their own, and they just kind of superseded whatever the AHL Board of Governors would have done? And did Meruelo have any say in Rio Nuevo doing this? Or sign off, or was it kind of just out of his?
Well, the
their
Roadrunners
hands?
did agree to this, because I think it became clear that they weren't going to sign off on the 14-game proposal. That's when it was like, okay, what can we do? What can we fall back on?
So this was like the
yeah, because the Roadrunners agreed to this. They knew Rio Nuevo was meeting, so they agreed. Like, if this passes, we're on board with this. So it became pretty clear that the 14-game proposal wasn't going to happen because there was too much opposition to it.
Well, I think in the end, at least I'll give my personal opinion, I think this was a good turnout of the situation. It does give a little bit of professional hockey here in the Valley, but not so much that it's like kind of a tease, like, oh, look at these prospects that you can watch. It's, great opportunity for people locally to go see some pro hockey if they want. Good for the Tucson community that they don't, lose their team for a third of the season. So I'm okay with how this all shook out.
I too.
I think it just goes back to the fact that this whole situation from March 6th, the day that Gary Bettman said he approached Meruelo about moving the Coyotes, to now, everything just reaffirms that there was not some secret ulterior motive before this, that this really did happen this fast, based on how unprepared and on the fly everything has been up until this point.
Going back to the idea of the affiliation beyond the season, I wonder, okay, say Utah doesn't want to continue this affiliation. What do they do? What recourse do they have? Is there
I don't know.
There's really not another AHL franchise out there for sale, right? Everybody's affiliated now. Aren't the Wolves affiliated now with Carolina? Is it?
Yes. So.
So I guess it could be, do they try and buy the Roadrunners? Would the Morellos want to sell the Roadrunners?
Or are they trying to move the Roadrunners to Reno? Let everybody speculate in that new building, which
and be affiliated with whom? Yeah, I mean, Utah still gets to decide. Do we want them as our AHL affiliate?
Of course.
Right? So
of course,
if they say, you know what, we're not extending this agreement, then what happens to the Roadrunners? Right. Do they become
an independent like Chicago used to be, and then try to fill the rosters?
With what players?
With what players? Yeah,
because you're not going to get top prospects if you don't have an affiliation.
I don't know.
But
that's
I don't know.
These
are all questions I can.
But I think that's the most important piece of this. And we keep hearing that the reason that they didn't approach Meruelo about purchasing the Roadrunners as well, but twofold. One, Alex Sr. wanted to keep the professional sports presence here in the state to keep the interest in hockey, and that's why he kept that team. At least that's what he's saying. And from the Ryan Smith camp, they barely had enough time to get an NHL team operating. They don't have time to get an NHL and an AHL team operating within that same 3 to 4 month time frame. So I think for this season, it's going to work. But
Season 1 in Utah is going to be a shit show. Let's just say it.
Anyway,
it's going to be crazy there, right?
Ultimately, it's going to come down to, so Morelos, in my understanding, the business side will be Morelos, right? Yep. The ticket sales, the marketing, all of those things, and the facilities. Yep. And will they be providing the facilities that the Utah hockey department staff thinks is suitable for an American League franchise in the development of their multi-million-dollar athletes? And I think that's going to be a key relationship, because we were hearing at the NHL level that there were some discrepancies on what expectations were and what was actually delivered. If that continues at the American League level, I think you will see even more frustration from Utah. If it continues as is, and what they've been able to do as far as providing meals to players and those type of things and the facilities, then this relationship may actually work. I think there's a lot still to be seen.
Well, we will move on from Roadrunners talk for now, as clearly a lot of questions have come up. Again, we will get to the bottom of all of this and report everything as we hear it. So make sure you're tuning into the show weekly and following along at gophnx.com, because Craig there's still hockey and hockey adjacent issues to cover in the state.
We just came up with a ton of questions that I need to get answered.
So. Yeah, a ton.
So
Look
that
at
means
this.
You're going to be back again.
Look at this. Yep. So Craig will be on the show a lot in the coming months for sure during the off season. But, we've talked a lot about road trips. We have a road trip. PHNX has a road trip coming up this fall to Miami. October 25th to 28th, the PHNX Cardinals crew is headed to Miami with True Fan Travel for an unforgettable experience in Miami. Craig will be there. The trip package includes round trip flights to Miami, charter buses, a hotel stay, welcome event, meet and greet with Cardinals alumni and Craig, an all-inclusive tailgate party, round trip transportation to the game, and your game ticket to the Cardinals and Dolphins. Basically, everything is taken care of for you, which is great. You just show up and get to have a good time and enjoy the Miami weather in October.
Yeah. I heard that Johnny Venerable is going to be grilling burgers too.
Oh yeah, he loves a burger.
Does love
if you know,
burgers.
You know.
Yep.
So that sounds like my kind of road trip where I literally need to show up. Don't need to plan anything.
It's perfect.
Just show up.
It's perfect for you.
Perfect.
You don't even have to read the email. You
Nothing.
Just show up. So head to truefantravel.com to get all the details, and also make sure you click the link in the show notes or visit gophnx.com under the events calendar tab for more information. All right. Well, you guys, tomorrow marks 4 weeks till the auction.
Ooh-wee.
Time
to the
is
day, Thursday.
Ooh-wee.
the day. And there was a comment earlier, first of all, from JJ, who said, just can't believe the only way to get the NHL back to Phoenix is through Meruelo. Petey, I'm going to throw it to you because I know you wanted to talk about this notion that, with the auction 4 weeks away, this is obviously the huge date that's circled on everyone's calendars in the Arizona professional hockey world. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, there was a lot of comments both in our Discord and publicly that the fastest way to get hockey back in the NHL is Alex Meruelo Sr. I'm not convinced of that. I'm just not. I still believe, first, I believe there's going to be NHL hockey back in Arizona, period. I do. I really believe it's going to happen. I'm not confident that Alex Meruelo Sr. can get this thing done quickly. I think there's so many hurdles, as we're going to talk about. Mm-hmm. This is a good hockey market. There's money, and people are interested in spending that money here in Arizona. I think there are people that want to see hockey back here in the Valley. I'm not necessarily saying if it's not Meruelo, it's not back within 5 to 7 years. I just not putting my eggs in the Meruelo basket. I think there are other options, and I don't specifically, other than rumored and people I've talked to that have rumors of opportunities that are out there financially, there are rumored to be other people interested in buying this team and this franchise and may have the political wherewithal to get it done faster.
Yeah. And
that's the concern, because we're going to talk about some of these hurdles. I am not convinced that it's Meruelo or nothing. I'm just not.
Neither am I. And I do think there are considerable hurdles. People think, oh, if he wins the land auction, then
and I think that's the other. I think there's two narratives that exist right now. The one that we just talked about, Meruelo is the only or fastest way to get the Coyotes back in Arizona. That's one, and the other is winning the land auction is a shoo-in to this process going smoothly, the 5-year plan happening exactly as laid out, and everything just being kumbaya from that point. And that's not necessarily true. Yeah, so let's throw it to that, because Craig has been doing reporting, and this is the segment of the podcast, the PHNX Land and Zoning Podcast. So everybody get ready. Oh my goodness, Danielle. Welcome to PHNX Land Development. Woo! All right.
That's great.
We'll talk playoff hockey later.
He came out of SpongeBob with red in his eyes too, because that's how
really
I feel
good.
sometimes.
That's amazing, Danielle. Thank you.
Fantastic.
If you're listening on audio, you're missing out.
So I asked the city of Phoenix a few questions, and like you said, there's the assumption Alex Meruelo wins the land auction and it's full steam ahead. Okay. First of all, we don't know who else is going to show up at the land auction. Let's wait and see on that. I hear a lot of rumors. There are a lot of rumors being thrown out there that, this could go up to $150 million. Who the hell knows until people show up? Yeah, that's just speculation at this point. But I did ask the city of Phoenix a few questions. I asked, so here's my question. Are you okay with me reading this?
Yeah, just go for it.
Boring the hell out of you guys. The Coyotes are under the impression that the state trust site is already zoned for an arena because it has the same zoning designation as the site of the proposed Legacy Sports project that was supposed to house a multi-sheet, arena for kids, for men's hockey. However, AZ Central reported that earlier this spring that the zoning is open to interpretation. So I asked for clarity. on this discrepancy and how it'll be resolved. Here's what the City of Phoenix spokesperson said to me. A sports arena is not specifically listed as a permitted use in the C2 zoning district. C2 is the zoning designation that the Legacy Sports Project has, and this site also has. So it's not specifically listed as a permitted use. A property owner could request an interpretation of the zoning so that a specific argument and evaluation can be completed by staff. Only a property owner can request a site-specific interpretation, which means he has to win the land auction before he can even ask this question. And staff has told the Coyotes that we would process an interpretation request, but there is no guarantee that an interpretation would allow the sports arena. Staff has verbally told the Coyotes that the most analogous use is a stadium type of facility for large public gatherings, and that requires a special permit to be approved by the mayor and city council through a rezoning process.
No,
The mayor?
Not another city council.
The other option would be to rezone the site to an appropriate zoning district that allows for the arena use like a special permit for the portion of the land that would comprise the sports arena. The Legacy Sports Project is a 3,000-seat facility for ice hockey and volleyball practice facilities, much like soccer sports complexes, and it's very different than a 17,000-seat sport and entertainment venue. So I had follow-up questions. Does the special permit to be approved by the mayor and city council through a rezoning process require any sort of referendum or public input? RA zoning request is subject to state law provisions on referendums, is what I was told. Okay, and then what would be the process for rezoning under the second option, the other one that I laid out when they said you could rezone it to an appropriate zoning district? The rezoning process is outlined on page 2 of the rezoning packet on the City of Phoenix website.
The rezoning packet's 56 pages, by the way.
And if you go there and read it, first of all, it's legalese, and you come away, and I even asked attorneys to interpret it for me, and they still don't know whether this means it will definitely go to a referendum, if it could possibly go to a referendum, or if the city council could make the decision, rezone it without a referendum. So I'm awaiting response again on a follow-up question from the City of Phoenix. Just tell me, does this mean it will definitely go to referendum, could go to referendum, or will not go to referendum? At any rate, you see that there are further complications. This is not necessarily zoned for an arena. The Coyotes assumed it was. The City of Phoenix is saying, hold on a minute, we have to decide that. So that's not set in stone either. And then we go back to the expertly crafted statement that I got from Kate Gallego's spokesperson saying, listen, we love the idea of hockey.
Yes.
We believe it can work. We had a very productive meeting, but hey, you're not getting any tax abatements from the city. We're not supporting any of that, which means no theme park district. I'm not sure about the district either. It does not sound like Kate Gallego wants to give them any tax incentives. And finally, we go back, although I don't get the sense that Matt Ishbia is as opposed to it as Robert Sarver was. There's that agreement that the City of Phoenix can't help another arena when footprint exists, when the Suns are there. So all of that is potential baggage that could slow this process. You talk about the fastest way to get an NHL team back. It might be that Alex loses the auction and someone else can step in right away. But I don't know if Alex Meruelo will even step out of the picture then, because he really has basically 3 years to get something else done. Could he go back to the Mesa site, which would absolutely have to go to a referendum, I was told this morning. So that's a problem. Would he try the other site? We don't even know the location of the other site where they have a letter of intent. Would he drag this out for 3 years before finally stepping out of the picture and allowing another group?
See, and that brings up the point, Craig, is when we're talking about dragging this out, there are people I've spoken with that believe he is going to drag this out as long as he possibly can, because one,
You're in the same.
he just got a check for $1 billion, whatever he
actually
made
cleared
from which we don't know and is subject to, but he's got money.
Yeah.
And there are people telling me that he is going to use that money to drag this thing out because he still believes he is the savior to hockey here in Arizona. But what the concerns that you just laid out to me, you've got so many. He can't even check the zoning and get a clarification on the zoning until he buys the land.
Yep. So
you're going to buy the car before you find out what the warranty to the car is, or even if the car has an engine. I don't think you buy the car first. So the huge concern, and then you might or may not need the help of the city council and or the mayor, which right now looks tenuous at best.
Right. We don't know the machinations that are going on behind the scenes, right?
Fair.
Politicking. So I don't want to say that we have a clear picture of everything, but this is what's public.
But it's
right
a hurdle.
Now. Yeah.
And then we didn't even bring up the other hurdles like community, unions. Like there are other voices that are going to come up in this.
NIMBYs, yeah.
NIMBYs. So there are going to be other voices.
There is a public portion of this. If you go to page 2 of that packet, there is a public hearing.
The packet's in the chat if anyone wants to read it.
Citizens get to voice their concerns and get active. So, yeah, that could be a concern. Now, I don't think the Scottsdale mayor has anything to say about it, even though he shot off his mouth recently.
Yes.
But a lot of citizens in the area could have something to say about it. And you're right. The same union that was a thorn in their side in Tempe could rear its head again if this gets public.
So again, it goes back to the core of the problem. Does Alex Meruelo Sr. not just have the financial wherewithal, but the business acumen, meaning relationship with the business community, the political community, the community itself of residents? Does he have those relationships that are strong enough to get this deal through to the finish line? And those are so many questions that I just don't think have been answered to this point or can possibly be answered. Is this going to end up in a lawsuit in 2.5 years, 3 years, 4 years, and drag
another
and drag?
question I have for you. If they win the land auction, who's handling all those negotiations for the Meruelo group with the arena? Because I don't think it's going to be Javier Gutierrez. No. I think he's gone, all but gone after the land auction.
So is it Junior? Is that Alex Meruelo Jr.?
The guy who just bungled the Roadrunners thing?
Yeah, is he going to negotiate all of these things with high-powered political people and business leaders?
You better find someone who knows what they're doing to fill Javier's seat.
There's concerns, Craig. And that's, again, it goes back to the question we asked 5 minutes ago, is this the quickest way? And that's why I don't think it is. Because I think there are so many hurdles that need to be cleared by Alex Meruelo to build on this particular site with the city of Phoenix, that if another group is eyeing land outside the city of Phoenix, Mesa, perhaps, that things could be different because they wouldn't have the same political opposition that they're going to get from Kekayaga and the Phoenix City Council, that you might get a more welcome political response with somebody who knows how to deal with local politicians, has relationships with local politicians and local business leaders that can help get this deal done quicker. And that's why I don't believe that this is the only or the quickest option.
I feel like there needs to be a trigger warning for the words referendum, city council, NIMBYs, and unions on the show.
Exactly.
Like, good Lord.
So the last thing I'll say on it, though, it probably won't be the last thing. I'll probably say a lot more things. If you're Alex Meruelo Sr. and family at all, and you just received money, how much money, whatever, they received money.
A lot.
They got some money.
They do.
Why don't you just take it?
Man, I heard some crazy stuff today about like how much in debt they were, and then calls how much they owed and how much he's actually. I don't want to throw it out there, but
sure.
The number I heard was
less than
shockingly low.
Okay, well, just can they take it and just go? Wouldn't that be quicker? And I guess that's where I'm talking about the speed of this getting NHL hockey back in Arizona. To me, the quickest, cleanest, best option is Mr. Meruelo goes, thanks, everybody. I'm going to take my money. Thank you for letting me be part of this community. I'm out of here.
I want to correct something or clarify something that I said on the last show about referendums. Gary Bettman made it pretty clear in the last process that you can't have any more referendums while the Coyotes were still here. Someone noted to me today that may not be the case now that the Coyotes are already gone, because there's no time frame really. So if you get it passed through referendum, fine, we'll pursue it. If you don't,
fine too.
You don't have a team, so it doesn't matter. So and there's also the idea that another group might have better success. You mentioned this before, even in the referendum process, because I don't think anybody's coming along. And this includes the Meruelos, by the way, who are not paying for this themselves. They're asking for tax subsidies. They want tax subsidies. So I know we've said, this is privately funded. We said it ourselves, although we did acknowledge that there are some tax abatements. I think they still want those. Anybody who comes along is going to want tax abatements.
Sure.
They're probably not going to float the cost themselves. An arena is just too expensive. And then you talk about the expansion fee in the NHL of $1 billion. I mean, not many people have that money to throw around.
So wait, I want to rewind, because what you just said, and you don't have to give the number by any means, about Meruelo's possibly being in debt and what they end up netting was not as much. Okay, so they build the arena. Can they afford the $1 billion expansion fee at that point?
It's a good question.
So that brings up yet another wrinkle.
They don't have the $1 billion. I can tell you that.
Yeah, it's definitely less than $8 billion.
They sank a lot of money into this team. Yeah. They lost a lot of money, which is at least one question that I got answered at that news conference. It was Gary Bettman that answered it.
Lost a lot of money.
And I heard crazy numbers for what they were losing annually. So that's all taken away from this pot, and then whatever other debts were accrued. I don't know. I don't want to throw the number out there,
but again, it goes back to the $1 billion. So
they have $1 billion. Close to $1 billion.
They don't have $1 billion in the bank to pay the $1 billion fee right now. No,
and that's not. No. That's just the fee, not even the
building.
The building.
But again, there were other assets that Alex Meruelo had lined up to use. I mean, he would have to sell those assets off, but he did have other assets, and Tempe looked at that. Right? Tempe looked at that. Tempe did a pretty thorough vetting process, and they were satisfied. So I don't want to suggest that maybe the financing isn't there for Alex Meruelo. If Tempe got to the point where they were happy with the situation, then I'm guessing that would be able to transfer over. What concerns me more is these other hurdles, and then Alex's reputation in the relationships.
The reputation, but then also, okay, maybe you have the billion, you build the arena, you have the $1 billion to get the team, but you still have to have money to operate a team.
Which was the problem to begin with. Yeah. That's how this whole thing started. He didn't spend the money to the infrastructure, to the team, to the players to make this an NHL facility and an NHL city, and all those things came back to he didn't spend enough money on the team. I don't mean player salaries. I mean stuff. Yeah. And so it comes back to the original problem that created this whole mess in the first place.
And who's coming to work for this franchise? Listen, there are only 32 jobs, GM jobs, coaching jobs. Somebody's going to take the job. You're not getting pick of the litter. You're not. I don't think Bill Armstrong's walking through that door again for this franchise. I don't think you're getting that level of GM candidate with what's being said about this ownership group around the NHL.
Well, still a lot of question marks. That feels to be the theme of the show every week.
Can we do a show that, I don't know if it's news or not, because we get Craig back on news shows, right? Can we do, I won't ask for it today, because I think we need to get closer to the 27th of June. But at some point, can the three of us have, as part of this show, our prediction for the land auction, whether it be A, he shows or doesn't show, B, he's the only guy there, and C, he wins or not. Those three things, and we will.
Those are the only three options? Can I have a wild card option?
Those are, you have to pick those things. Like, does he show or not? That's one.
Okay.
B, do other people show or not? C, does he win or not?
We could build like parlays.
Look at you guys.
I'm just thinking.
Oh, we got to have prop bets too.
But we need to get a little
crazy stuff that we might see.
The magician shows up.
Let's do it.
It's Publix can go.
Public can go. Media can go.
Oh, geez Louise. This could be
PHNX
interesting.
Die Hard meetup.
You think they you have to go through like not a metal detector. Is there like a paddle detector so you don't walk in with a fake paddle?
Yeah, nobody's going to think you've got, well, you might have that much in your vault.
You haven't seen my vault, buddy.
Oh, Lord.
It glows.
There's a financial credit union.
Go ahead.
No free ads.
There's going to be so much more to talk about on this. Make sure you become a diehard at gophnx.com/diehard, because Craig is always dropping nuggets of information in our Discord. There's conversation daily about this whole process, this whole situation, as well as many other perks like 20% off in the merchandise locker, 20% off on events. You can get, if you haven't signed up yet, you can get this Hockey Belongs in the Desert t-shirt for free at sign up, or any shirt at phnxlocker.com. So become a diehard today, and make sure you check out phnxlocker.com for all the great merch, not just for hockey, but across all the sports if you are a Valley sports fan in general. And now, for the hockey portion of this podcast, I promise we're going to talk hockey, and it's happening now. Let's go. LFG. The NHL conference finals are underway, and I have to say, the NHL is doing laps around the NBA as far as the entertainment value of these conference finals. Granted, the NBA, some of those games have been crazy, like endings, but there was a sweep, and the other series is a 3-1 situation.
Yeah,
right now,
Mavs are moving on at some point.
Exactly. Yeah. Right now, we have the Rangers and the Panthers, who have gone to overtime 3 out of their 4 games. There's a tied series. You have Dallas-Edmonton tonight. That series is 2-1 right now going into Edmonton. We'll start with the East. The game last night. Petey, I'll throw it to you because you watched it very closely. Your thoughts?
Yeah, the last 2 games, Florida's been the better team by a country mile. Not even close.
Dominant.
They've dominated in all 3 zones. The shot attempts 2 games ago were 108 to 49. That's insane. Last night was 89-44, but they're still almost doubling up. Well, that is doubling up. I'm sorry about my math here on that one. This Florida Panther team is smothering the Rangers in all three zones. The Rangers can't get through the neutral zone. They did get a power play goal for the first power play goal of the series, but the Florida Panthers power play, with Reinhart now 3 goals in 2 games, it's elite. The only thing that's keeping the New York Rangers in this series right now is Igor Shesterkin.
No doubt.
He has been absolutely elite. Now, having said that, the Rangers have enough talent. Zibanejad doesn't have a point in this series yet. And without Zibanejad putting up numbers, I think that's a huge concern. With Kreider, Zibanejad, Panarin, their better players need to be better players.
Yeah.
And they haven't been to this point. I think the key for the New York Rangers to get back in this series is going to be to provide offense from their defense. And I think it starts with Adam Fox, who got 2 assists last night. He was much better. He had an ankle injury from round 1 that is finally seeming to be better. He's going to have to drive the bus. He's going to have to, because they can't generate any offense right now. It's a huge problem against this Florida Panther team.
Rangers have 2 of 3 at home, and it's a 3-game series now, and 2 of those will be at Madison Square Garden. They've obviously played much better in the series at home than they have on the road, so that's an advantage. You mentioned Shesterkin. I don't believe, and I'm backed by history on this, that a goaltender can carry you all the way to the cup on his own. Shesterkin's been unbelievable in this series, and right now, like, if they do advance, he's putting his name in the hat for Conn Smythe, but I agree with you. Florida has turned the tables in this series from those first 2 games at MSG, where they were actually a better team in one of those games as well, but they have been so dominant in the past 2 games. Game 5 is critical for the Rangers, obviously, to win if they lose this game.
But they could. That's what this series is such a fine line.
Yeah.
They could have won last night after being dominated again,
Yep.
and they could hold a 3-1 lead going back to Madison Square Garden 2 out of 3.
Right.
And they've not been the better team. But that's what the playoffs does. Yeah. And it's just, you cannot make mistakes. So you go back to last night's game, the mistake of the game, and there were several mistakes on both sides. The mistake of the game is Zibanejad. In overtime, when his defensemen are changing, throws the puck into the middle of the ice. That puck has to go in deep, has to go in deep, has to go in deep. There's no other option. He tries to hit Wheeler in the middle of the ice, turnover back the other way. Wheeler has to take a penalty because it's Barkov. You can't let him go in all alone. And they score 30 seconds into the ensuing power play. Yeah. On a mistake by Mika Zibanejad, one of the best players on the New York Rangers, makes a mistake, a mental mistake. And I don't know if there wasn't communication from the defense, but those are the little mistakes that in the playoffs, if you make, you are going to lose.
How do you think Mika's playing in this series?
I think he's having a hard time finding ice. Mm-hmm. I think he's frustrated by the smothering style of these Florida Panthers. He has no room between the blue lines at all. He can't find the puck on the power play because they again, their penalty kill is so smothering. Mika Zibanejad is not getting the opportunities he has offensively that he's used to, and he's become very frustrated.
Yeah, I know I've mentioned this before, but my problem with the Rangers has always been up the middle. It's like historically, yep. I've never felt that this team is good enough up the middle to win a cup, and it's interesting to see what's happening.
I think that is part of the problem right now, and I think that's part of their offensive woes right now is their ability up the middle. I still think the Rangers could win this series.
Sure.
And one of the things they need to do is they need to get their power play back on track. It's funny, I talked to a power play specialist this morning, Newell Brown, former Coyotes power play coach, and he's been. But the last time this power play was at top 10 at the end of the season was under Newell Brown. And we talked about the Rangers, how you deal with that aggressive style. And it's got to be quicker puck movement. Right now, the Rangers can't elude that pressure. They've got to move the puck quicker, and you got to get it to the weak side so you can get more opportunities on the net. And then the biggest thing that the Rangers have not been able to do on the power play is get puck retrievals and recoveries. Can't get them. One shot and they're done. They're back the other way. So the Rangers get the power play back going, like they did in that Carolina series. They got 2 power plays in 30 seconds. They can make this a series again.
What's keeping them from getting puck retrievals? It's just Florida's a heavy
just too
team.
quick on pucks.
Yeah, they're quick on. They're
incredibly
quick and heavy.
But the one thing Florida does though, Craig, is their back end. They anticipate so well. All 6 of their defensemen can skate. And they can all move, and they get to pucks quickly. And I keep saying it's like a dog on a bone. It's where's the puck? Where's the puck? Where's the puck? And as soon as that puck is shot, they're thinking puck retrievals. Where the Rangers are thinking about converging at the net for the original shot, the Florida Panthers already passed the original shot mentally, and they're quicker on those pucks, and it's out the other way.
I want to ask one more question about this series before we move on to the West. There was some OEL slander on a game-winning goal. Can you address that?
Okay, so I love Oliver Ekman-Larsson. By the way, I think Oliver Ekman-Larsson is in a really good spot in Florida. They've got players like Forsling, Montour, and Ekblad that are eating the big minutes, and they're the big players at the back end for the Florida Panthers, where Oliver Ekman-Larsson just needs to go out and play. Second power play guy, move the puck up the ice, and he defends pretty well. But you saw the overtime winner where Wenberg gets the goal all alone in front of the net. And I heard people, analysts, and on internet, where's Oliver Ekman-Larsson going? Well, Oliver Ekman-Larsson has to have that guy. Well, it's Oliver Ekman-Larsson. I'm frustrated by that. One, because I know Oliver's an incredibly smart player. So I did what people should do. You research it. And you go look and you watch the film.
Reporting?
Yeah. So what I did is, and this is kind of what a video guy does. And that's why when you hear a video guy talk, it's because the video guy saw it. Not an analyst, analytics guy. An analytics guy will look at a page of numbers.
Right.
I went and looked at the video. I went and literally watched every single face-off loss for the Florida Panthers in the defensive zone in the playoffs. I watched every one because I want to know where that defenseman is supposed to go.
Yeah.
And until you do that over and over, because sometimes that defenseman will make a mistake and make a bad read. But if you watch 20 of them and 18 times they do X, well, that's their system. And you need to know a system before you can start accusing players. We talked about it. Paul Maurice talked about it when Mitch Marner didn't cover lost the Boston series. Well, where's Mitch Marner? That's a 1-2-2 team. Mitch Marner's responsible for the middle of the ice. It was the weak side defenseman's problem. Anyway, that's another story. But Oliver Ekman-Larsson's job on that was to follow Capo Caco. Mm-hmm. And Capo Caco goes to the wall. Oliver has to go to the wall. We talked about Florida's smothering. They're incredibly aggressive because they anticipate plays, so they're on the man to man. That was not Oliver's fault, period. It was Rodriguez's fault, who's supposed to fall center to the net. And the other thing I do is I check with other people to say, am I right? And I have other coaches that I know.
Let me ask you a follow-up on this. Like when Oliver recognizes what's happening in the situation, what happens when a player tries to do somebody else's job because they see a breakdown?
Well, that's going to be another mistake. And here's the problem. Yep. I do believe if Oliver hadn't already committed to Capo Caco and was so far committed to that play, if he sees Wenberg coming to the net, I do believe Oliver would have peeled off and taken Wenberg. I do. But when you watch the play over and over again, Caco goes to the wall before Wenberg breaks free from Rodriguez. Oliver had no other read but to go to the wall. Period. End of story. And if you do want to see it, here's what I'm shameless plug. Check out S. Peters Hockey, my Twitter, because I broke it down and I show you all the examples of what Florida and that defenseman is supposed to do. So check out the video, because I think once you see the video, you go, oh, well, that's where Oliver's supposed to go. I see it now. And I think that I think it's more important that in the spur of the moment, it's hard to get that right. It is. And I know people see it and quickly think that's the mistake. But when we go back the next day and armchair quarterback it, I want to go back and I want to do it this way.
Good stuff.
Yeah. But make sure you're checking out those videos daily on PD's Twitter account at SPeters Hockey. They're phenomenal breakdowns. We're also retweeting them all on our PHNX Hockey Twitter. So check those out. We also have a collection of PD's Puck Talks, both from this playoffs and in general, on our YouTube page, both in the PHNX Hockey playlist and in a playlist called PD's Puck Talks. You can look that up. By the way, if you're watching live or watching on YouTube, hit the like button on this video. It means a lot to us. My two callouts on this series before we move on to the West are less analytical, more fun. And Diana brought it up when Kreider threw Tkachuk's mouth guard into the crowd, and I saw a tweet like, imagine you're just drinking a beer and all of a sudden Tkachuk's mouth guard just lands in it. Yeah. So that's funny. And then I think it was Johnny who said, I remember there were always rumors of the Panthers moving over a decade ago, very proud of their success. I've been saying for weeks that the Panthers I feel a kinship with, given their similar situation to what the Coyotes went through for many years. So
and I will say
definitely
this,
cheering for the Panthers.
Talking to hockey people, that's the model of what you want to build on the ice. I'm not talking about the off the ice stuff. I don't know that stuff, but the on the ice product, what they have built through toughness, skill, speed, intelligence, hockey IQ, they literally have everything. Mm-hmm. They're the best team left right now.
I think they are too. They're the best
top
team
to bottom.
I've been saying it all year. They're the best team I saw.
You watch them and they make so few mistakes. They play so hard.
Sunshine, because Matthew Tkachuk asked to be traded literally to the Florida Panthers and no other team. So Brad Treliving had to find a way to make that happen.
Yeah, why?
So it's really cool to live in a warm weather climate, because
it might help someday.
Hockey players want to live in those places more and more as time goes on. Go ahead.
All right, let's move to the West. We have Dallas-Edmonton tonight, Game 4, and Edmonton and Dallas leads 2-1. Speaking of warm versus cooler. By the way, look on a map and look how far north Edmonton is.
Farthest north in the NHL.
You will be shocked, especially if you're not super familiar with the geography layout of Canada. Like every time I say, just go look at Edmonton on a map, people are floored by how far north Edmonton is. Anyway, that has nothing to do with this series. What do you guys think, Craig? I'll start with you.
Well, I wanted to start with that nugget that I gave you guys that came directly from Sean Shapiro, my old colleague at the Athletic. When the Stars lost game 1, I was like, whoa, Edmonton won game 1. And then Sean put it all into context. The Stars lost game 1 of a playoff series. That's 3 straight series this spring and 7 straight series total in which they've lost game 1. So this is old hat for the Dallas Stars. The last time the Dallas Stars won game 1 of a series was game 1 of the 2020 Stanley Cup final in the bubble in Edmonton.
Wow.
So the Stars losing game 1 of a series, no big deal.
Yeah.
They know how to turn it around. They are still a better team than the Edmonton Oilers, in my opinion. This has been a closer series, I have to admit, than I thought it would be, but I still like the Dallas Stars in this series.
Yeah, this one to me, and I was pretty vocal about what I thought of this series going into it. This is the Dallas Stars versus Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid.
Yep.
It's not the Dallas Stars versus the Edmonton Oilers. Connor McDavid has elevated his play in this series. He's playing better now than he had this entire playoffs, and it's making a huge impact on this series. Connor McDavid has been Connor McDavid, and that's been the difference. It was the difference in game 1. Clearly, he gets the overtime game winner. The problems the Edmonton Oilers have had over the last decade are still the problems the Edmonton Oilers are having now. They're top heavy, they don't defend well enough, and their goaltending stinks. We've said it over and over and over and over and over. You look at Stuart Skinner's numbers and high danger chances in this series, and it's horrific. His numbers, horrific. Edmonton will not win a Stanley Cup until they find better goaltending. I'm sorry, if Calvin Pickard's playing in your playoffs, you got a problem. Great guy, great in the locker room, love him. But he shouldn't be playing in your playoffs. And Stuart Skinner's not going to win this team a Stanley Cup. They might not get another win, and it's unfortunate because they got their power play is historically great, best ever. And McDavid and Draisaitl are scoring at a ridiculous pace, but they can't do it by themselves. And the problem is, as a coach, when you're in trouble, you play them more. So they're playing 26, 27, 28 minutes a game, and the more they play, the less effective they become. Yeah. And now the thing that gave you success is now giving you problems because they're too tired. And also, if you're a third or fourth line winger and you're looking at, well, they don't need me. I'm no value to this team. It's those two guys. Like, oh, you're going to put them out again? I know it sounds petty, but game after game after game, when they're not relying on you to help contribute to the team, it wears on you, whether it's real or not.
Too, right?
100%. Yeah. So the Dallas Stars are the better team. I think their veteran players like Sagan and Ben have been outstanding. I think they've carried the load. Robertson has finally broken free, but that's because of Rupe Hintz giving him some space. His speed, his size has given Robertson some room. I like Dallas a lot. And I said pre-season this year, I said Rangers Stars in the finals. I still think Florida's probably going to beat the Rangers, but it could be a Rangers Stars final.
I've been saying Florida Stars, so we're close.
There you go.
Go Stars, but I do want to give a shout out to Zach Hyman, who has carried on his elite play in the regular season to the playoffs. So really cool to see that from a guy like that. All right, well, that's going to be all for the playoff hockey talk for today. Craig, there's one more thing I know you wanted to talk about before we wrap up today, so I'll throw it to you.
Well, first off, I want to congratulate Jeffrey Sanders because he announced today on Twitter that he will be the main media relations guy up in Utah. So Jeffrey is moving with the team to Utah. Stuff. Congrats, Jeffrey.
Yay. Good.
Really happy for you. I know that, listen, a lot of people are still waiting to find out what their fates are. Jeffrey just got married, so you're going to have to talk your wife into leaving the Arizona warmth, but that's okay. Jeffrey's got a job. I'm happy for him. But it got me thinking about just how many people Rich Nairn has trained that have moved on to
be the number one guy.
Big job, or just big jobs in media relations and pro sports. So I asked Rich, and while we're doing this, can we put up a photo, the photo that we have, Danielle, of...
Wow.
Do you want to read who this is in the photo while I'm getting this called up?
Yes, absolutely.
This is from Rick Braunstein's cup party in Vegas, by the way.
No, the cup party was at... It's here in Scottsdale.
Okay. So, that's right, because he came down. That's right.
Isabella's Kitchen.
But it was, he's director of team services, right? That's his title in Vegas. Okay.
Yep.
So left to right behind Rich are Sergei Kucherov, Jeff I shouldn't be the one reading this. Jeff
Alstetter.
Yep.
Greg Dillard, Rick Bronstein, and Ryan
Lichtenfels.
Ryan Lichtenfels, right there. So listen to this.
Which is not what we
the
call
Rich and Aaron diaspora. This is unbelievable. I
I
told him
didn't
today.
know what that word meant. What's
like
a diaspora?
It's just, no, you can look it up.
I thought it was a misspelling.
Nope.
I never heard the word in my life.
I told Rich today.
You heard that word before?
Dispersion or spread of people from their original homeland.
Yes.
Diaspora.
No.
Diaspora.
Diaspora.
So this is who Rich has
I
trained.
got a college degree. I really do.
This is who Rich has trained, okay?
Yes.
Rick Bronstein was director of media relations and now is the director of team player services for Vegas. Won a cup.
Yep.
Jeff Alstetter was an intern for me and then went on to be VP of communications for the NJ Devils and won a cup. And now is VP of communications for the UFL. Ryan Lichtenfels was media relations manager for me and then went to Ducks and PR and won a cup and is now manager of hockey operations for the Ducks. Merritt Tully was manager of media relations for me and is now VP of marketing for the Ducks. Won a cup. Sensing a pattern here, Rich.
Yeah.
Don't take it personally. Sergei Kucherov,
Yeah.
$1 million baby, who, by the way, also won the $1 million lottery, literally won the $1 million lottery while he was in Washington, was media relations manager for me and now the Capitals VP of communications, won a cup. Chris Wojcik was director of media relations for me, left for the Panthers VP of media relations job, famously got me the walking interview with Jaromir Jagr where he called me his Colombian friend, and is now the VP of event communications and player development for the NHL. Greg Dillard was VP of Media Relations for me and is now Director of Championships PR at PGA of America. Jeffrey Sanders, who we just mentioned, is moving on to Salt Lake. Maybe he'll win a cup in Salt Lake.
Say soon to win a cup.
There have been other guys like Jeff Hecht and Tobin Ernst that work for him as well that aren't in sports anymore. But it's crazy how many people Rich has trained that have moved on to these big jobs.
It is insane.
He's the father of NHL media relations.
He really is. And the funny thing there is, and it's the frustration, I know when you're not a player, you don't have a hand in winning a cup. I understand that. But when you have so many proteges that win a cup, it is frustrating as hell. that he won a cup? He won a cup? It's funny. It's poor Rich. Rich has done an outstanding
Rich is
job.
just like, I'm just hoping for an arena.
Yeah.
Right?
Rich did a fantastic, thankless job here with this organization for an incredibly long time. And when he looks back and have memories like that, is phenomenal. And I wish the best for Rich, and I think they're great.
How many hits did he have to take for this franchise?
Oh, my God.
Like, talk about a stiff upper lip. My God.
Yeah, if you need crisis management, hire Rich. Like, he's been through it for sure.
By the way,
Jeffrey's getting his cup. This just did it.
Wow.
They're gonna win the cup.
And by the way, Jeffrey, happy birthday!
Jeffrey Sanders'
like
birthday
of all days.
Really?
Yeah. Very cool. So happy birthday.
Yep.
And Robert in the chat. Hello from Cape Town, South Africa.
Wow. That's a new way. Put
Awesome.
that on
Hello, Robert. Thanks for tuning in. That's cool.
Fantastic.
People watching and listening from all over the world. Wherever you are, be sure to hit the thumbs up button on this video. Make sure you're subscribed to the PHNX Sports YouTube channel so you don't miss our weekly live shows and you don't miss out all of our supplemental videos as well. And make sure you subscribe wherever you get your podcasts because we have weekly audio only shows. Petey and I are going to be chatting about all the new coaching hires in the NHL a little bit later this week. So make sure you're subscribed there. Leave us a review. Any final thoughts from either of you before we wrap up today?
Oh, yeah, with the diehards, I saw Phoenix diehards. So what I'm going to do, PHNX diehards, as soon as the show's over, I'm going to go into the Four Peaks mini bar and I'm going to record video.
Okay.
Today.
The diehards should come to Miami. Just hoping there's like a Panthers game or even a Lightning game.
Yeah.
We'll drive across the alley together and
that'd be great.
Continue.
That'd be great.
Did you do that to the table, Craig?
Yeah, the scuffing.
Probably.
Yeah. Is that him?
Yeah, that's him.
I've been looking at that the whole show. It's been driving me absolutely insane. Like I almost wasn't
before you
able
go
to
into the
continue.
minibar, get a wipe and
Almost couldn't
clean off the
continue
scuffs.
because of the mess you made. And then I thought it might have been Lindsay because I know Lindsay does similar
Lindsay's
things.
has her
footstool is
stools.
right here.
I know.
She even has a new purple
I
stool to
understand
replace
that,
the nasty
but I know
orange
that
stool that she
that
was
could have
using
been-
for far too long.
Could have been Lindsay.
Tough, Lindsay.
No, there's scuffs on the
Sorry to
table.
interrupt your lunch.
Craig's got scuffs on the table.
Oh, boy.
And I thought it might have been you, but it's him.
All right. Well, it's always good for the three of us to be back together. It feels good.
is.
Hopefully one day, far in the future, it's talking about a team again. But until then, we will keep you updated on all the latest with the Roadrunners, with the land auction, all of it, the pursuit to get the NHL back here. Plus, of course, we'll cover ASU hockey, any major Arizona hockey stories. We'll be talking about it. So make sure you tune in weekly. We put our schedule out every week on our Twitter account at PHNX_hockey. So make sure you're following along there. You can follow each of us on Twitter at SPetersHockey, at Leah Merrill, at Craig S. Morgan, at Abrica Danielle. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your week. And we'll talk to you all soon.
city like the mayor.